What's a reassuring fact that not many people know?
Mr. Reddit.
You never feel like a grown-up. You mostly just fake it and assume everyone else are actual adults. My data is only valid from ages 0 to 46 years of age.
Yep, 44 here and I don't feel like an adult. I always get nervous to meet my kids' friends' parents cause I figure they are real adults and they'll be onto me. Yep, 44 here and I don't feel like an adult. I always get nervous to meet my kids' friends' parents cause I figure they are real adults and they'll be onto me.
I tell my students this, I still mentally feel the same. Your mind doesn't switch into adult mode like magic, but I guess you know it's happened when you deny yourself the ice cream you wanted for dinner and have a salad instead.
My father lived to be 79, confirmed your statement.
Your brain is constantly rewiring itself, so even if you're stuck in a bad habit or mindset, you can always change it with enough effort, no matter how old you are.
A trick I learned lately that's been saving my ass, I've had a stressful 3 months, is that if your brain is ever stuck in what if happens, you can easily fix it by thinking, what if happens, instant rewire, lasts long enough to get to sleep. For example, I was stressing about failing an entrance exam and thinking, what if I got an F? Fix by, what if I got an A? Brain immediately switches to wow, that'd be so cool, I got a B, which was enough.
Hello stranger, I got the worst news today and was at the end of my rope tonight and was completely defeated. Doing your trick helped immediately. Felt like a weight was lifted. I think you may have saved my life. Thank you, edit so I don't keep getting DMs, on top of having to quit a very bad job that paid very well but was killing me, and on top of my sister and I having a huge fight that I can't forgive her for, and on top of losing my husband 3 years ago, now my mother's health has reached the point where she probably needs full-time care. She is my best friend and the only family I can stand, and I have been her caretaker for years, which means I live in her house which is only in her name. And a nursing home means it will have to be sold which mean I will have to move out when I just quit my job, which means getting a rental is impossible. I am alone having to deal with this. She might recover but it seems unlikely. I was asking myself, what do I do if she doesn't recover? And simply saying, but what if she does recover?
I usually try to imagine 3 scenarios, the worst, the best, and the most probable, like when giving a public speech, worst, get laugh/booed at, best, get standing applause for magnificent speech, most probable, short polite applause.
Heart attacks seldom come out of the blue and strike without prior notice. There are almost always tellable signs in advance. Listen to your body and get checked out in doubt.
The doctors will always be happy to tell you you're not having a heart attack. That's a good day for them, just knowing people are paying attention to their own bodies. I've never met a doctor who'd be mad at a false alarm on a heart attack. I had a doctor very calmly explain my EKG to me, showed me I had a strong health heart and that what I was experiencing was anxiety and panic attacks. He was so kind and gentle and understanding and knew exactly what I needed to hear to calm me down. Some people are just natural healers and we are lucky they chose to become DR and nurses. As a person with heart disease in my family, thank you for mentioning this.
Yes, I felt off for a couple of months and one day driving to work, I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was just not right, made a right turn instead of a left and went to the hospital. I was admitted and spent the week there. Turns out my heart was working at only 35%. They did an angiogram and found a 90% blockage and put a stent in. I am on the road to recovery and if I waited any longer that day I made a right turn I would have for sure had at least a stroke. True, but these signs can also be very general. My mother had a massive heart attack and the whole left side of her heart was completely blocked off. The only symptoms she ever really had were sweats, nausea, clamminess. And she was at the age where menopause was starting and she even went to the DR for these symptoms, only to be told it was menopause and she needs to get used to this. 2 months later, she was dead. Miss that woman so much.
You are a mosaic of everything and everyone you've ever loved.
I once read that we are the sum of our education, our upbringing, and our experiences.
I lost my dad 25 years ago and still miss him every day. I am comforted by the fact that he still lives on, in some way, in me and my children.
My brother died many years ago and I thought my heart would never heal. Then years later, I heard his laugh from the other room. My middle child, born 15 years after his death, laughs just like him.
The only normal people are the ones you don't know very well. Everyone is weird in their own unique way. If Mr. Rogers met you there's a strong chance he'd be very proud of how far you've come.
I've told this story elsewhere on Reddit years ago but I met him when I was 4, early 80s. He came to my school with Mr. McFeely and the Purple Panda, then went around room by room to meet everyone. For a 4-year-old, it was the equivalent of meeting Jesus and I got so overwhelmed that I just blurted out, "You're my best friend." He smiled and said, "I'm so glad to know that we're friends. We did not deserve that man."
You are not the person Mr. Rogers thought you could be is one of the most effective insults you can ever throw at anyone. Crime rates have continuously gone down year after year after year. Objectively the world is a safer place than it was, for crime anyways. Years ago the news just talks about it more now. Crime rates have continuously gone down year after year after year. Objectively the world is a safer place than it was, for crime anyways. Years ago the news just talks about it more now.
In Canada and the US the rates have been declining since about 1995. There's half as much crime as there was 30 years ago. You have to go back to about 1960 to find rates so low. It's kind of amazing.
When I was growing up in the Detroit area, 70s, it was so bad that a single murder wouldn't even make the 11 o'clock news. It had to be multiple murders, and they'd put the gang territories on the screen to warn you what areas to stay out of. Basically if you got off of the main streets inside of about 6 Mile Road you were taking your life in your own hands. Now downtown Detroit is thriving, with safe streets, great restaurants, and a restored Michigan Central Station. Yeah, there's still some bad blocks, but nothing like it was back when the city was the murder capital of the world.
There's a lot of good government agencies trying to make things better. I work for a wastewater treatment plant that aims to do better than current guidelines and has been an industry leader in reducing emissions and protecting the environment. We're among 60 of 20,000 agencies who have had 26 perfect years of protections. A lot of us want to make this world better and got into government to make things better.
Regarding microplastics, this is not the first time this has happened. The reason we have coal deep below the ground today is because for millions of years nothing existed to decompose trees. They just built up and up and up in ever deeper layers. Eventually something evolved to fill that niche, and today we have termites and fungus and wood-eating bacteria. Dozens of ways trees can be broken down by the natural world. The same will happen with plastics. It will go away, in time.
Yup, this Earth will be fine. She's a tough OL girl. Seen much worse than what we've done. There are dozens of cataclysmic events that ended all/most life for huge amounts of time. We just are about to lose our privilege as stewards of this amazing planet. The last humans will cough and wither away prematurely thanks to man's hubris, but the Earth will see itself heal and new life form.
That's such an obvious statement that I have never had cross my mind. It's amazing, thank you. It genuinely has given me a different perspective.
Humans have a natural ability to adapt to almost any situation, so no matter what happens, you'll find a way to cope.
Yes, but also for the same reason you should challenge your reality every once in a while because we can easily get used to the uttermost crap.
Dogs think we're cute as well, like we see them, and cats think we're weird cats.
My cats just see me as a food dispenser, a warm lap, or something to sink the talons into, but I see what you're saying about dogs. I think my dog believes we're a couple.
Sharks were swimming around before trees were alive on Earth. They'll probably still be here when we are gone. Extra super sharky resilience. Sharks. Scaring the shit out of everything that lives in water for 450 million years. I bet when they swim towards something with their shark fins sticking out of the water, they laugh quietly to themselves.
Centralia, Pennsylvania, the site of the long-burning underground fire, has been reclaimed by nature. I was there several years ago as a last-minute decision on the way to somewhere else, and was interested to see the Silent Hill-style landscape and the big stretches of graffiti. It's not there anymore. It's big beautiful plants and trees. If you know what you're looking for, you can figure out where parts of individual houses are based on the pipes that remain, but that's largely it. It was so comforting to be there, in a weird way.
I used to live there in the early 90s. Driving through now is a gut punch. I think for out of towers it's a pretty interesting spot, but for the locals it's basically a memorial to what happens when your local government mismanages and abandons a place into literal oblivion. I know this is supposed to be an uplifting thread, but YMMV if you're from the region and are familiar with the how and why of what went down there.
You're currently on your personal best for most consecutive days alive, and tomorrow you're going to break your current personal best for most consecutive days alive. You're as young as you'll ever be, so enjoy it. You're the oldest you've ever been, so enjoy it. And other such useless platitudes that sometimes help you feel better, sometimes don't.
We are unimaginably tiny in the grand scheme of things, and nothing we do will ever cause a difference to the universe. So do what you want, and go for it.
Even though you sort of end positive, I cannot let the beginning wherein you feel nothing we ever do will cause a difference because we are unimportant go. It reminds me of one of my favorite stories on this kind of topic. A man is walking on the beach, and he sees a boy who is constantly tossing his arms towards the sea, over and over again. As the man walks up, he sees that the boy is picking up starfish after starfish and tossing them back into the water because the tide is going out. The man tells the boy, "Look down the beach. There are thousands of starfish. You can't possibly save them all. So what does it matter?" The boy looked back and forth between the man and the starfish in his hand, and while tossing it into the water, he said, "It matters to this one."
In 600 years the Earth's time will be over, and humanity will probably be a distant memory in the databanks of our robot prodigy. The story of my life will be just as unimportant as that of Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar, no matter how much or how little I accomplish in life. I actually find it kind of comforting. In 600 years the Earth's time will be over, and humanity will probably be a distant memory in the databanks of our robot prodigy. The story of my life will be just as unimportant as that of Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar, no matter how much or how little I accomplish in life. I actually find it kind of comforting.
Except when my classmate's ginger ale exploded all over him in econ 14 years ago. I still remember that, Justin. Super embarrassing for you.
Except for the time I had to poop on a crowded commuter train. I thought I had locked the door. It was a modern European train with a toilet that had a door that slowly slid open like a pod when you hit the open button. Inside there was another button to lock it. Only, it didn't work. I didn't know it didn't work. Someone hit the open button and the door slowly slid open like it was my world debut of my grand performance. The entire train got a glimpse of my act while the guy who opened it frantically hit the button to close it, which it didn't do until it was fully opened. Then the pod door slowly closed. The faces of the people on the seats facing me are etched into my brain. I can assure you, none of them forgot that moment either. That most growth is done in and around relationships, aka, you have to experience in order to grow, and I wish more people knew this so that they would give others more chances over writing them off right away, all within reason of course.
Baker's dozens are 13 and not 12 like a regular dozen. This is because bakers sometimes were accused of making their loaves too small, therefore cheating people out of bread when selling a dozen loaves. This could result in a fine or a flogging in England. So added an extra loaf was for their own safety, and that's how the baker's dozen was born.
You cannot save everyone. But the small kindnesses you share can dramatically affect the people around you, even if they feel insignificant to you. Shout out to the guy at the supermarket the other day who patted me on the shoulder and said, "You're going to be okay." He had no way of knowing that I suffer from chronic depression, and that I'm in a dark place at the moment. He just thought I looked sad or empty or whatever and took a moment to remind me that it's okay to be human. It was nothing to him, but in that moment it was everything for me.
I'm 73 and still wonder when the F I'm going to grow up.
There is always someone out there who loves you, someone who notices your presence and finds it comforting. Someone who thinks about how you made an impact on their lives. Someone who anticipates to hear your voice again. There's always someone. Things will be better, buddy, I promise.
In 90% of the world, literally nothing crazy or extreme is happening. Most people are just trying to live their lives. It's that horrible 10% we hear about all the time.
Solar is already one of the cheapest forms of energy humanity has ever created, and it's still getting cheaper.
The Yellowstone caldera is a massive volcano, but since it regularly releases pressure and heat through geysers, unless there is a massive earthquake or something equivalent that would cover multiple states, then it's not likely to ever erupt.
There's no template for how to live your life correctly. Two people can be complete opposites in everything they do and still both live a good life. Edit, of course, please treat others and our planet with respect.
Dogs have an innate sense of loyalty and will go to great lengths, even traveling vast distances, to reunite with the people they love. In the 1920s, a collie named Bobby got lost during a road trip and was separated from his family. He traveled over 2,500 miles across the US to find his way back home, reuniting with them after several months. It's actually pretty rare for bats to have rabies. They're terrible hosts for the disease. That being said, a bat that's grounded etc. is definitely sick, so it's best not to touch it, just in case.
From a disease vector, you're splitting hairs between having a rabies infection and carrying the virus. The bats themselves may not be infected or symptomatic, but they are sure as hell, pretty much 100%, guaranteed to be viral carriers which will infect most other mammalian host. Source. All the literature I read after being bitten by a fruit bat and had to receive a 5x course rabies treatment tetanus hemoglobin.
100,000 years ago during an ice age, the total number of Homo sapiens on Earth went from about 10,000 down to just 600. We survived that and become what we are now. Even if climate change destroys modern civilization and all but a handful of humans, we could survive and recover. We've done it before.
And a gene study found humans had a long history of cannibalism, and gene to help prevent sickness due to cannibalism was believed to have mutated around this time, indicating that's how those humans survived the ice age you mentioned.
My wife bought me the Lego Batman TV series Batmobile for Christmas. I've already built it because I'm a child and couldn't wait. This is why I can't have nice things for Crimbo. So anyhow, she's bought me the big Lego Millennium Falcon. It was on sale. It's in the box, in the hall, driving me crackers. I'm 56.
Whatever higher entity created the stars and the mountains and all the beautiful splendor the universe has to offer thought it needed you too. You're not an accident. Hang in there.
I feel like a teenager working on projects on the garage. I'm 66.
Nobody is really looking or watching or even cares what you are doing out in public. The vast majority of the people that you see are so busy taking care of their own business that whatever they saw of you was forgotten in a few of minutes at most. I know that I have no recollection of most people I see in public after I leave the venue, supermarket, Home Depot, etc. Except for the woman in dirty pajamas at Walmart spraying Febreze on herself in the big aisle.
The more you chase happiness, the more it will elude you. Happiness comes through love, gratitude, accomplishments, no matter their size, and being resilient through life's challenges.
It takes on average until the age of 45 before an entrepreneur finds monetary success. If you're young, put in the reps that's needed in order to be skilled in business. If you're on the older side, use the experience and knowledge you've accumulating through the years, hopefully as an employee, to build the vision you'd like to undertake.
Below are global facts that paint a very different picture of our world than the doom scrolling. In 1930, 90% of the world's population were living in abject poverty, less than $2 a day adjusted for inflation. Today, only 10% of the world's population live in abject poverty. The economic activity of the wealthy and middle class in developed nations are globally fixing the problem. In 1950, the average life expectancy at birth was only 48.5 years. In 2019, it was 72.8 years. That's an increase of 50%. Out of every 1,000 live births in 1950, 20.6 children died before their 5th birthday. That number was only 2.7 in 2019. That's a reduction of 87%. Between 1950 and 2018, the average income per person rose from $3,296 to $15,138. That's an inflation-adjusted increase of 359%. Between 1961 and 2013, the average food supply per person per day rose from 2,191 calories to 2,885 calories. That's an increase of 31.7%. In 1950, the length of schooling that a person could typically expect to receive was 2.59 years. In 2017, it was 8 years. That's a 209% increase. The world's democratic score rose from an average of 5.31 out of 10 in 1950 to an average of 7.21 out of 10 in 2017. That's a 35.8% increase.
I found that once you spend a month cutting out soda/candy and fried food, they taste awful. I used to crave this. It doesn't even take that long to reset your taste buds. Also similar, if there's something common that you don't like, trying a tiny bit once a day can make you get used to it. It took years before I got on the cilantro train, but if you give me a taco, I can handle it now.
If you are depressed and cannot get out of bed and lay there all day, do one thing. Wash one dish. The next day wash 2 dishes. Write one sentence that you are loved by the universe. If you do this day after day, it creates a snowball effect in your brain and you start to be able to do more and more.
If you are in this state, know that I love you. This is the author's comment on the video. Thank you all for watching. If you are interested, subscribe and watch other videos.